towards whatever, wherever the gas is. They'll give you their information and tell them to tell you.
It's easy. Yeah.
So,
Do an expansion. What's the
trip planning solution. They'll sit down.
Yeah, it's like one like that. It's like, I didn't hear people clap the other one, so did they get up? And the man said he was coming, so I was like, is another one?
I'm not worried about it. They'll show up when they show up.
That's true. 2 or 3.
All right, we are ready to get started. So I'd like to let everyone kind of get settled there. I would like to introduce John Chase. I'm actually very lucky. I actually work very closely with John. I was able to hire John a few years ago as a driver, and we saw a lot of potential. I was like, why is he being a driver for me? So we put him into dispatch, and then we're like, wait, John has even more talents than drivers in dispatching. We put him in as our mobility manager, and even at this point, he still excels. He loves to learn, very good at technology. And then we have the program Retail Valley Rides. He's run that, but John's history is actually been, he spent 22 years actually in the Air Force, where he became, can't remember the terminology he uses, but a master navigator flying B-52s. He also has a master's in business administration and bachelor of science in geography. So John's very talented, and we're lucky to have him presenting today on our trip planning session. So it's all yours, John.
Thank you, sir. Okay, you have to bear with me today. It's been about 12 to 15 years since the last time I gave a major large group presentation. And back then I had to wear a uniform. So, all right, we're going to talk about RideSheets today. RideSheet is a program that Kevin Chambers developed, and it's going to move you from chaos to structure with your trip planning. So I'm going to show you how that's going to be done today. We're going to do a little walkthrough in the middle. That's going to be the majority of the presentation. But I'm also going to show you some of the pages that it gives, and also the opportunity for reporting or being able to distill the information and put it into your own Excel spreadsheet somewhere and develop your own reports. So as a small agency, you will have had lots of challenges as to how you want to do this. RideSheet will solve some of those problems for you. I'm going to show you the workflow and what the tabs look like in the Google spreadsheet. And also we'll do not a live demonstration, I've got a video demonstration, because I don't trust the internet in these places. And you need to have internet connection for that. And then we'll talk about the reporting and impact, how you get it set up, and pros, limitations, fits, how that might work for you, might not work for you, and then the resources that are available to you in order to be able to implement this. So one of the biggest problems that you have, or I don't know, I had when I started the RIDE program that I'm working with, is that all our manifests were paper. So when we wanted to find out how many people rode last month, well, you pull out the paper and you start counting up how many people were on each of the manifests. That sounds pretty exciting, right? I can do that in about 5 minutes now. Not counting up the paper like this, because that's what it looked like. All right? So none of the names are anybody here. So Marge Simpson's on there. Oh, Bart's there too. So is Lisa. So, and then on a particularly interesting day, for example, right here, you're picking up somebody at 9:55 and somebody else at 10 o'clock and taking both of them to Revere Health. But that didn't really fit the grid, did it? So I had to leave some notes down here as what was going on. And then over here, you're picking up some people at the senior center and somebody over here at the Best Western that's close by the senior center, and taking all three of them home. And here's the order you need to do that. And this is what I gave to the driver so that they'd be able to do that, after I explained it to them in the morning before they left. And then we had to have a list like this in each of the vehicles so that they would have the address for each of these people if they didn't remember it, if they weren't sure about it. So, and you had to print a new one of these out every month with all the new riders on it. And I think the last time I printed one of these off, it was 13 pages. So we've got over 200 riders. So, and here's another problem. You got all these Excel files that are scattered all over the place. Maybe you've got them on a shared drive. Maybe it's on somebody's computer. I don't know. And then how do you share all this information? I guess you get an email and email it to them. And then, of course, you know, you could always try one of these commercial softwares here. I know for a fact that VIA is going to take over your program if you try and do it that way. So what's the solution? RideSheet. It is free. You can actually download it today and start using it. It is open source, and it's built entirely in Google Sheets. The only thing you have to have that's special with Google Sheets is you have to have a business license that costs about $7 a month in order to make that work, because it has some stuff that it integrates into that. So it's great for small agencies, rural transit, and volunteer driver programs like the one that I'm working with up there. I've got 4 implementations of this right now. I've got one for our Utah Valley Rides that I use every day. I've got one for our turn program that's implemented a little differently than regular, because all we do there is we just put the date in that they're going to travel, because some of the turn people will travel on this day, they get dropped off a different place. I just put the date in there and they have all the entries for where they might go, since we don't need to have records like I do for Utah Valley Rides. I did one of this for the presentation that we're going to show you a little later. And there's one for our temporary rides program, because I can get all the information I need to submit the invoice. All right. I think we covered all this, or I did anyway. So I'm going to go through the workflow tabs now and show you what each of the tabs looks like. Some of you in the back may not be able to see it quite as well, but you're more than welcome to move up. So this is what the client list looks like, and you can see here I've got SpongeBob right off the bat, and then a bunch of others in here. What I did for this program is I used St. George addresses. I do have default mobility factors and some other information going on there. Here is the client list again. What do we have? Yeah, okay. This is moving on to the right. One of the things you can do with Excel and Sheets is you can minimize your columns so you don't have to see everything. And as you slide over here, you can see where the customers started. They all started in January this year, but you know. And then they have a special tab called addresses. Because I don't know about you, but one of the problems that I've got a lot of the time is, hey, you know, if I put this address, if I say, you know, Temple here in St. George, I may or may not get the right address. Or say Red Cliff Temple, may or may not get the right address. How about Sand Hollow? Does anybody know about Google Plus codes besides me? Okay, you use a Google Plus code in Africa to get a package to somebody's doorstep that doesn't have an address. Okay, that'll put you within about 8 feet. And you don't have to use a latitude and longitude. It's a lot shorter. And this is where that Google Plus code drops you off, right here. So anybody been to Sand Hollow before? Okay. It's a fun place to go. All right. So now I've got 10 drivers. You can see who they are right there. We're going to be working with Black Widow and Batman on the one we're doing today. Now, you might be looking at it and says, well, what if I want the driver's telephone number? You can actually add a column for that, and it's not going to break the system. All right, and then you have your vehicles in here. We've got Marvel 1, 2, and 3, and then DC 1, 2, and 3, and a couple others. But you can explain what's going on with the vehicle. So they all have lifts except this one down here. It just has a ramp. And then you can tell what kind of capacities it has, so you know what's going on there. And then over here, you can talk about the services that you provide. He's expanded this a little bit, so you can have a primary service, which is, and who funds that, and maybe a secondary service, and who funds that, and when it started and when it ends. And then over here, this is the lookups table. I want to tell you a little bit about the lookups table. If it's in blue, you don't change it, okay? But over here, we added the medical, work, personal, and over here, the trip results. You can make this whatever you want. I didn't pick them up because the weather, you know, it snowed, and we don't drive when it snows here in St. George, do we? Anyway, and whether it got done, not completed, turned down, you know, you can say, you know, they didn't want to ride today, you know, because the driver looked kind of scary. I don't know. Hopefully the driver didn't look scary. Okay, now this is an interesting one that was new with the latest implementation. You can put your drivers in over here, and you can say what days and what times they drive. That's going to become important a little later on here. But that tells you when your driver availability is. And that'll be part of the demonstration a little later. Over here, because it's Google, this is this tells Google where the manifest folder is, and this tells it what document to put the manifest in, which is important. This is the default stay duration. So if you drop somebody off, you're not going to, and you put them in for a return trip, it's going to give you an automatic time to pick them up. And then right here, you can say, hey, how long do I want, you know, before the appointment to drop them off, and how long is it going to take me to pick them up? And then these three here are interesting. These are latitudes and longitudes. Don't mess with this one here. It doesn't do anything that you want to do, or any of these others. So this is what I used for this demo today. So what it does is it primarily looks in this box for the addresses that I put in first before it goes anywhere else. It will go somewhere else. I typed an address in one time and went to somewhere in New Jersey. I looked at that and go, well, 25 hours, yeah, that's probably not the place that I needed to go. All right, we're ready for some demonstrations. Are y'all ready?
Yes.
Okay, so these were videos recorded, and I will talk you through them as we go through. If you've got any questions, you might need to wait till the end of the video because the video won't stop. So we're going to start over here with our first tab, the drivers, and then we're going to go through the run template, and I'm going to show you how that works. You're going to see that I made a nice pink mouse. I couldn't make it any bigger. It wouldn't let me. Otherwise I would have. So there's your drivers. We're going to go over here to the run template. And I'm going to click on that. And you can see I've modified it a little bit because I wanted it to be a little simpler because it was too difficult. So we go back over here to the runs right here. And we're going to click on the runs, and you see there's nothing there. Okay, but you don't want to type all this stuff in manually, right? So you click on the RideSheet, which is a tab that it adds onto for you. You go down here and it says, hey, I'd like to generate weekly runs from that template that I've already made. Click on that, and it's going to come up with this. And he says, no, I want to start it on a certain other date other than the 8th of September, which is when I was making this slide. So then you type that in over here. Sometimes I don't type too fast. Actually, I think this is something that happened in the video, an aberration. But I'm typing the date in over here, and then I'm going to press the OK that's underneath the hand button there, and then it'll run the rest of the script. And then this is what happens in the end. You can actually create more rows in there, and it's not going to cause problems. Here I'm inputting what vehicle they're going to drive. And then that's the end of that slide. So the next thing we're going to do is now we've got our drivers and we know where our clients are, so we're going to try and transport those clients from where they are to where we want them to go. So this is the trips page. And I've set it up for trips on the 1st of September. And the reason I did that is because you can't move trips to archive or data until after the date has happened. So instead of changing, oh, and if you want to change your columns here, be very careful. That's why that message comes up, because you can break things if you don't do it right. So we got SpongeBob Cat. He's going to go, we're going to pick him up at his home there. We're going to add a return trip later on. So same with Stan Dog. And then you got to have Bugs Bunny, because, you know, if you don't have Bugs Bunny,
You won't know what's up, Doc.
well, yeah, you won't know what's up, Doc. Okay, so then we put in the addresses here, and this is an interesting feature right here. So I type in Harmon's. Some places, you know, you type in Harmon's with a possession, and sometimes you don't. So the system says, I don't like you. But it still did a travel estimate anyway, so I don't, you know. So I'm already busy typing the St. George Regional Hospital because this person has a medical appointment. Stan Dogs needs to, you know, get looked at for whatever's wrong and are ailing him. And then the Sand Hollow trip. Remember I told you, see what it did there? It put that address in there for Sand Hollow. And I took away the possessive for St. George, for this Harmon's Grocer. Added Utah, put a space in there. Hit the tab key, and la. And then I said, well, we ought to have some times to pick them up. So it computes the drop-off time based on the stuff in Google Maps. And then over here, I put in when I need them for their trips. So we're going to pick them up at 10:39, drop them off 10 minutes before 11:05. Again, I'm trying to change something on there, so it's warning me to be very careful. So then we move over here, and we add the driver in. I don't know about you, but my drivers are very important, and I love them. They're all volunteers, and they're difficult to recruit, but it's interesting. Once we get them, they don't want to leave. They stay. I've got some that have been there for 5 or 6 years. Longer than I've been there. So here the drivers are going in, and then we're going to put them with their vehicles that we've already scheduled for them for this day. And you'll notice that the run OK goes green if you do that right. Didn't do that right, didn't like me. So type that in correctly. And then over here, wait, you're already using that with Black Widow, you can't have it with Batman. So it went red, and now I put in the correct vehicle and it's happy again. Then what's the purpose of the trips? I think that's it for this one. Now, you get them where they're going, right? They want to come home, okay? Trust me. So we're going to show you how that happens. They have this little return trip in here. You can say add trip if you want to do a 3-way or 4-way. You hit the space button or press on there, and you hit the arrow in there, and then it adds a line for you. You type in the return time, but you can pick them up and take them back. And here's the next one. We'll do that for the next 2 as well. Now, when you type the time in for the new one, it's going to go red in the drop-off time, so you just go in and erase it. Did it put in there automatically if that's not the one you wanted? So then we go back over here, and some of the people aren't going back with the same people that took them, you know, because it happens, but I don't know about your program, mine's kind of rare that the same person picks them up and takes them home. So we get all that sorted. Now, I left some paperwork at the end of your tables, and each of you should have gotten a copy of that. That's the National RTAP program. Here I'm sorting it. What I do for sort is we sort by the columns. So I'm going to sort by vehicle, which is column L. And then I'm going to sort by the time that they're picked up, and then the time that they're dropped off, and by their customer name and ID. And that's just something I typically do, so I get everybody on the same, so I can look at it and see whose bus they're on and what time they're getting picked up, and maybe there's 2 or 3 people getting picked up at the same time. Just, you know, keep them all alphabetized properly. Alrighty. And then we're going to go over here to runs, and you're going to see some information that you get automatically in runs. Right over here, you get a trip count, you get the first pickup time, the last drop-off time for each of the drivers. So that's information you just picked up and you didn't have to do any math. Okay, so that's all fine and dandy, right? But hey, we need a manifest, right? Because the driver doesn't know where to go. So we're going to do that over here. We go back up to RideSheet again. And it's create manifest. Now, whatever day your cursor happens to be on is the day they're going to pull up here. And if you want a different date, then you'd simply type that in here. And then it goes and does its thing. Chugga chugga. And if you watch the bottom right-hand corner, it's going to come up with some information here in a minute. So it created 2 manifests. So then we go over here, and it goes into that folder called manifest, and these are all the manifests that are in there. These blue ones are document files, and the red ones are PDFs. I use PDFs, and I typically download them to my PC and print them from there, so that's what we're doing here, is we're downloading those. Google will tell you that it's preparing to download. The download's ready, 2 files, and then up here in the corner it'll say it's done. All right, so you get your manifests. Okay, this is the one that I've designed. You can make this however you want it. You know, if you look on your desks, there should have been, did I pass out the manifests? Well, or maybe that's what I'm going to do now. So take a look at these.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Gary's already seen these, so. Oh, thanks. That's all right. I'm not in a terrible hurry. No, I'm doing fine. Okay, so, but the information is all here on this. What you're seeing with the paper that went out is the header that I added on. But this information, you can change any of this information. And anything that is available in the column header is available for you to put on here. And it's really easy, okay? It's probably one of the easiest parts. I like the green arrow for picking up and the red arrow for dropping off. And you can see that you can add notes in there. For my program, I usually add the notes in there that say, hey, you're gonna home, then there's a little arrow, you're gonna drop them off over here. And then when I do the return trip, I just erase the home part and put that at the end. So it says you're picking them up at Harmon's or you're picking them up at Senior Center. Then you're going to drop them off, you know, whatever location you're going to drop them off at, home or wherever. And I say, hey, it's in American Fork or Orem, Provo, stuff like that. And that gives the driver a little bit more information so that they're not just relying on the address to know that, hey, Stonebridge, that's where Stand Dog lives. Okay, and then we're dropping them off here at the medical center. So, all right, and here's the bonus. If you have Google Drive and you're using Google tablets, you can actually link those tablets in so you can pull the manifest off your Google Drive and put it on your tablet. And you see that little blue thing right there? Yeah, you tap that with your finger and you get a map. Then you press the start. Let's not do that. I'm going all over the place here. All right. You press the start button over here, your driver gets directions how to get there. Okay. And if you turn up the volume over here on the tablet, it's all audible, so you don't even have to look at the map. They just listen, hey, turn right, turn left, stop here, please stop for stoplights. Okay, now you're all done with that. The driver's back. It's the next day, okay, because like I remember I told you, you couldn't do the post-process until the day after. So you'd like to do some cleanup on that. So we go up to RideSheet and we say, hey, RideSheet, I'd like to move past data to review. And that's what we're doing up here. It's going to run this little thing. And I don't know what they did with this version, but they made it faster. So, because the last one, it would take a while. You could watch all the rows disappear one at a time. They all disappear at the same time now. Now it's gone on to runs, and it's taking care of the drivers and the runs and moving those over as well. And they're gone. Not really. They're over here in trip review. So now this is where you want to let it know, hey, I completed the trip. What was the actual pickup and drop-off time? You can copy and paste over here. I typically just pick the pickup time and drop-off time and copy and paste that over there because you have to have that in order to move it to archive. And then we're going to slide over here and show you some more stuff. So you see what was going on. The notes section I told you about. But you see right here how much time, the estimated mileage. And over here, this is a new feature that got added with this one that hasn't really been implemented really well yet. But I put in the run ID that I'm going to associate with the driver for that day, okay? And what I use is the month, the day, and the first run, second run, third run, fourth run, so on. So we go over here to run review, and I put that run ID in it with the driver, okay? And I'll show you why that's important a little later. But now I take the information that's off the top of that manifest, when the driver actually started, when they actually finished, how much time they took in a break. I gave them each a 15-minute break today. I'm nice, but not too nice. And then the odometer start and the odometer end. And you can see it's already populating some of the information right here, the total vehicle miles and the total vehicle hours. So, but you can see, if you look, there's a lot of other information that's available. And this is the information that I want for temp trips, because they want to know when I picked up and did things and how much deadhead miles there were and a lot of other things. So everything's there. We're going to go up to RideSheet and say, hey, RideSheet, add data to runs and review. So there it goes, chugging away again, thinking, talking to Google, saying, hey, would you do this for me, please? Pretty please. And then, I know this works because this is just a video. If this was live, I'd be saying, oh, please work.
The video freezes.
No, I've run this video several times and it's my laptop, so I know it works. But you can imagine that if you were doing this by yourself, you'd be just getting started, basically. All right. So see what you got now. You got revenue miles. Oh, we're moving this over to the trip archive. I'll show you again here in a minute. So this is where you finish off everything and put it in the archive. And it tells you when you reviewed it and when you archived it. It gives you a timestamp for all that. Now we're going to see all this information right here that you can use. Okay? I'll show it to you again. All right, that was a cleanup. So here your billing, so you can take that information, you got your deadhead miles, your actual miles, revenue miles, and everything else. So you've got that information that you can pass on for your billing reports. I'm going to be passing that on to Susie when I get back for my temporary trips. Not Susie. Trista. All right, and tracks the schedule versus completed. And you can start, and you get all sorts of information. You can find out how many drivers, who the riders are that are canceling on you a lot. You can find out how many new riders you have. You can find out how many rides everybody took. And it's all there. And somebody asks you, hey, would you give me this information? You go, sure, give me 10 minutes. Because last time it would have taken me all week to gather, 5 months of information. Now it's all there. And then you can determine what the cost is. And then you can actually, real-time collaboration. Since it's in Google Sheet, what can you do with Google Sheet you can't do with, unless you're using SharePoint, and that doesn't work so well. You can share the data. You can be typing in Google Sheet, your friend can be typing in Google Sheet, their friend can be typing in Google Sheet. So all that information is available to you, remote location, they're not with you, they're in some other office, somewhere else in town. All right, so setup and customization is available. Like I said, you can add columns wherever you want. You can modify the layout and the reports. The manifests are great for modifying those. You will have noticed that the columns come with it. They're all single line columns. I made them all 3 wide so that I could make the columns more narrow so that it'd be easier to read. And we have, for our Utah Valley Rides, we have donations that we keep track of. So I added a column just for donations. And then if you decide you want some support from Kevin Chambers' team, he can actually do some other cool stuff for you, which is just awesome. All right, it's free, it's open source, no licenses required. If you know how to use spreadsheets, it's not going to take you a long time to figure this out. Volunteer driver program, senior transports, that doesn't have any real-time routing or optimization. That you have to do on your own still. So there's no automatic dispatch engine, and it's not really ideal for anything greater than 20 vehicles. I'd say anything greater than about 10 is probably going to be really time-consuming for you. There are documentation and built-in tutorials. It is secure because you need workspace permissions for that. And you get to keep the revision history so you can figure out who did what when. You do need to have internet access, which is why I did all the films instead of trying to do a live demo, because you can't trust the internet. All right, and there's a QR code that will get you everything you want to know. It's a national RTAP is heavily invested in this program. Lake Oswego in Oregon is using this and has been using it for years. A guy named Mike in Kansas uses it for his area, and he's expanded it to 2 other areas near him, and they may expand it to the whole state for operations this small. Because he's been a big advocate of it out there. And he's saying, hey, please don't call me, call Kevin for help, because they're inundating him with his management team. Anyway, I'm here to answer any questions that you might have about that, and I do have internet, so I do have the capability of showing you anything you might want to see. So just let me know. And if you don't want to know anything, then we'll be done. But we have time.
John, I have a question. What if you don't have the Google, the ability, you don't have the tablets in your vehicle?
You don't need the tablets. You hand them that manifest that I just showed you.
Okay, but there's no way you can put it so they get it to their phone where they just click on their it home?
No, you could email it to them. That's less secure than,
Well, if I had secure ways of sending it, I could.
yes.
Okay, so you could just, okay.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
You created all of those tabs in there for each of the spreadsheets?
No, all the tabs that you see along the bottom of this,
Are they all,
that's all part of the program.
same with up there?
Now, the columns up here, they all come, and like I said, all I did was modify this so that I wrapped them, I centered them, and some stuff like that, formatting issues, so I can make them smaller so I get more data visible. I run this at 80% on my monitor at work. This is at 100% on a 4K monitor because I went home and did it there. So you can see more. Okay, here's that run archive that I wanted to show you. Okay. This was that information that you get. So you can see how many miles, how many hours you put on the vehicle, the deadhead, total deadhead, the beginning, the end, right here, and the time that was deadhead. So you can find out how much time is deadhead. And all that information is stuff that for the temporary trips program that we're doing up there, they want for billing. So, and that way I can invoice it, say here. So, is there anything else you want to see? I can show it to you with this live one. This is the same one that I did the films off of. All right. Feel free to call me and ask any questions. You've got the link. You could download this and play with it today if you wanted to. So, if you got any questions, like I said, go ahead.
One more, do you use this like to help you with your data for your reports for UTA for RidePilot as well?
We use RidePilot Lite, and I have all the data that I need off of the manifest because I have the beginning and ending mileage for each of the vehicles, which is what I need. And then I also know how many people I took with wheelchairs, seniors, and that's the reporting that goes back there. And that's easy reporting. So,
How far out can you schedule, and can you just do a repeat function if you have the same schedule each week that you just want to?
yep, you just copy it in. Matter of fact, when I started the term program, that's what I was doing. I was just copying the template over. But I found out that it's much easier to say, hey, here's all the possibilities for this person. 95% of the people get picked up and dropped off at the same place every day. There's a handful that don't. So what I did is I just said, put the day in here for the ones that have this, and the ones that don't have it, you know, if you're not going to use this particular rides, because we have one that we take to Alpine on one day and another one that goes to Highland on another day. So it's like, okay, if you don't put the date on there, then they're not going to Highland. Put it on the one they're going to Alpine, and then that takes care of that problem.
And how far out can you schedule?
As far as you want. So, and then, like I said, the archive lifts back here. And what I will typically do, because I'm much better with Excel than I'm with Google Sheet, is I'll come in here and I'll copy off a month, and then I can sort by the names, and then I can put only unique names, and then I know exactly how many different passengers that I took that last month, how many rides I gave, and it takes me 5 minutes. So, and I don't have to break out paper that's in a file somewhere and start counting, you know, I took this person 5 times this week and this, you know, because that's the way we were doing it. If there aren't any more questions, I'll let you go. You can come see me if you have anything else you want to chat about. Be happy to help. To what?
I have too many cars.
But it also allows you, if you wanted to subset it
Well, no. It depends on how many you think you can handle. This system can handle it. It's whether you can handle it.
Yeah, I was talking to my girl, and she's like, it's just harder.
Yeah.
You know, 'cause the problem is I'm really trying to find a system, because I'd love like TripMaster,
Right?
but I don't have 600,000.
No. But this might serve you. I don't know.
Okay, we'll play around.
But
a little bit.
it's not limited to 20. It's
But do you do it on the other side, or do you guys only like, because you have your volunteers?
Right.
Do you use it with your CDL drivers?
no. We use Paratransit's Trapeze for that. Now that's a multi-million-dollar program
Yeah.
that UTA pays for. We don't pay for that.
No, that's nice. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but no, you can use this for whatever you like.
But this is beautiful because with the MTP requirements, that's why we always ask, can you guys show us where you dropped them off, where you picked them up? It's because the state now requires us to be billing. Yeah. So we can just use it at other
What I
programs as
didn't
well.
tell you about is that little tablet on there. Each of those have its own unique identifier. And since I only had 8 of them, I just made them billiard balls. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's a big circle with the color that's associated with that billiard ball. And then I use Google Maps, and it tells me where they're at. So I can tell where that vehicle is all the time.
See, well, and we have GPS, and then with you guys, with our Paycom system we have, when they clock in and clock or transfer in and out, they'll tell us where we picked them up and where we dropped it off on that Paycom system.
Well, good. Yeah, it's
So
just
we've got you for the backup, but yeah, all
the
these things.
DSPD requirements.
Yes.
They keep just
Oh, yeah.
pounding our hands with it. Ridiculous.
Well,
No, it's like
I'm not really
everybody
happy
wants
with
to see
DSPD, by the way.
No, to join the club.
Well, the problem is that they don't cancel rides for the paratransit side. So I'm like, you're not canceling the rides for the paratransit side. Are they still being paid for?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and
We don't know.
and that's the problem. That's why they put some of these more bigger things in, because instead of training people how to do it correctly and the steps they need to take, they look at the
Yeah.
least common denominator and they just punish everybody. Which is, there's so many various things that we have to do that because other people were being fraudulent.
Well, and I go back to Kristen Cox's presentation on the first day we were here.
Yes.
You know, what's the goal and what's all the funny paperwork we're doing?
Yes.
So,
Exactly.
thank you. All right, that worked. I should probably turn this off, huh?